name's Vanessa Bodia. I'm just going to get rid of that little clicky thing on here. And it's really lovely to welcome you all in. And the focus of this evening is looking at time hacks and a tool guide for ADHD. Hopefully you can all see that on your presentation screen. So I own and founded a company called Changes for Life, and which is now under my parent company of Mind Sparks. And I also have a separate company called the ADHD Coaching Expert. So I've been running for over 23 years full time. I'm also a clinical supervisor, ICF accredited, and I provide ADHD focused counselling and coaching services to anybody that will benefit, and it's a real passion, real interest of mine. I am an ADHDer myself. I have raised 3 now adult children, as I say that with my head bending to the side, with ADHD and autism as well. So the eldest is now 30. It's been one heck of a roller coaster during certainly those teenage years, but we all learnt a lot, let's put it that way. So really, that's kind of in a nutshell where I am. The company's based in Reading in Berkshire, and I have a number of incredible people on the team in the network that also provide services alongside of myself to those that are looking for support and help. So in any areas. So you're very welcome to look us up, and if you've got any questions, I'll give my details at the end, and you can drop me an email. Okay, so that's just a little bit there. So really, when we're looking at this aspect of time management, we're going to start to explore some of the top tips, the real useful tips. I don't know the backgrounds of you all, or what you know or what you don't know, so I'm just going to put a whole bunch of stuff out there. And hopefully, if you leave this, this time that we've got this evening to get with just 1 or 2 things that are going to help you to take more control of your time and be more productive, then it's a happy day or a happy evening. So let's move along. I might ask some questions a little bit as we go along, and if you pop those in the chat if you've got anything specific, and as Jamie said, if you've got anything real burning in your mind, and I know as an ADHD, if I don't get it out, then it's gone by the time I'm meant to get it out. So put it in the chat. Jamie will collect them up for me, and I'll do a quick check-in sort of like 4 or 5 sessions time. So it's a bit of kind of like just to provide you with the info that you need. So if we have a little bit of a look at understanding ADHD and time management and its beautiful relationship, we talk about, well, what is ADHD? And for many of us, we may be aware of what that is, but ultimately we're looking at a neurodevelopmental order that affects attention, impulse control, hyperactivity, and for some, not for all, but it makes it very, very challenging to manage time, to predict time, to, as I like to call it, guesstimate rather than estimate time. So if we have a little bit of a look here, one of these most important things is that one size doesn't fit all. And sometimes we can have a bunch of tools and tips, and we're told they'll work, and they might do for a while, and then all of a sudden it stops working for whatever reason. And it's really important to have a bunch of tools in the toolkit so that we can adjust, we can kind of assess where we are, adjust, and then do something else differently so that we're quite flexible. Now, ADHDers are excellent, naturally, excellent problem solvers. So being able to apply this to ourselves can be quite a useful instrument. Now, let's just have a quick look along here. I say along here on the next slide. So some of the common challenges I'm going to run through first with you, some of which, if you have ADHD, you may be familiar with. If you live with somebody that has ADHD, or you have a family member, or you know someone with ADHD, some of these things may be familiar to you. If you may have a recent diagnosis, or if you've had a later in life diagnosis, sometimes these carry some oh yeah, that makes sense. That really makes sense. Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought that was just what everybody did. But these are some of the most common areas and the most common challenges for people with ADHD. in managing and sometimes structuring their time. Welcome to those that have just joined us. We're just coming into the third slide and just begin to talk about the challenges of ADHD for time management. Okay, now there's primarily 4 areas which are going to impact often what we call the task initiation, getting things done. And when we look at entwined with this, we've got sort of like the difficulty in organisation. We've got the sort of breaking down large projects, estimating prioritisation, the completion of different tasks. And when we actually look at making things into the tinier steps, when the steps are too big, it leads to almost like a sense of paralysis. And I just realised I've got a spelling mistake in here, so forgive me. Now, I wonder if there's anybody in here that's ever left things to the last minute, taken things right to the wire, and then gone and managed to somehow pull the bunny out of the bag. It's always an interesting one. Or anybody else maybe that might be permanently what I call on the bus in terms of preparing for events such as birthdays or anniversaries, Christmas, holidays, packing your suitcase 2 hours before you're about to leave the house to get to the airport and everything's kind of chucked in. It's this, that's kind of in the sort of like the personal side of things. Then when we actually look at work and the impact that this can have on work, and we think about the last minute rushing, working up to those deadlines, the perception that may actually hold for us in the workplace, how it can also affect the quality of, I suppose, some of the finished reports, some of the finished products, whether it's a presentation, for example. But apart from just that, it can create hugely high levels of stress. And sometimes it isn't that we don't know what to do, it's just that somehow it doesn't get done. So the other aspect there is if you're a parent and you have a child with ADHD, and you may find yourself quite frustrated by this time management issue. It's not on purpose. It's not that your teen or your child is lazy. Again, it's most often that kind of paralysis that comes from quite simply not knowing where to begin, not knowing how to structure, how to organize themselves. And I think it was actually Russell Barkley, one of the most famous experts on ADHD, that actually did say the words I mentioned earlier on. It isn't that we don't know what to do. It's just that somehow it doesn't get done. Time seems to disappear. So then the second of these areas, let's have a quick look at impulsivity. So even with the best of intentions, adults with ADHD might find themselves getting sidetracked by, should we say, other more interesting things. Usually things that require an immediate gratification, things with quite a quick turnaround. You can see the results very easily. And one of these reasons is because we have what we call an interest-based nervous system. Okay, it's a bit like working to a one-touch policy, because you get those results straight away. It's interesting, it's newer, it's fresh, and that's the bit where it can often hijack us. And also when we look at that impulsivity piece, where we'll start to act without thinking, we'll just do it rather than really looking at that bigger picture and how it might fit in, sometimes even with some longer term goals. So impulsivity can be really quite challenging in terms of the distractibility element. It feeds directly into here. So when we're looking at distractibility and the executive function, your working memory space, so this is the third area that we're talking about. This can be where within the time management sphere, we have a lot of trouble holding information in the mind. Sometimes the working memory and sometimes the short-term memory can be quite compromised. Makes it quite hard to plan and to action tasks when we can't hold them. It's really hard to hold them in the mind for a set period of time. I don't know if any of you have ever kind of got up maybe to, I don't know, probably shouldn't say this right now, but to take a nature break on something and then suddenly find yourself clearing out a cupboard because you've got distracted on the way to the bathroom. Or maybe, I can remember a good time of Christmas dinner, in the middle of it, suddenly deciding to clear out the Tupperware cupboard, which didn't go down too well with the in-laws, to say the least. Creates a lot of stress for other people because they just don't understand why we're doing it. And sometimes we don't understand why we're doing it. And the more we come to understand and put certain interventions and tools in place, it reduces a lot of that stress load. Okay. When we kind of look at the executive function, hopefully some of you will know what that means. If not, I'm more than happy to talk briefly about it later on. This really will cover organization, time management, planning in itself. Okay. So the business of completing tasks quite systematically rather than in a random fashion. And the last area here, is time blindness. Now, this will be an inability to accurately perceive the passage of time, leading to an underestimation of how long tasks take. Now, we're going to come right into this important area in the next slide, because it can be the bane of many people, many of my clients, day in, day out. This is a real struggle, time blindness. And it's certainly something that you will tend to find people will adapt and become either super early for things, might have heard term pathologically early, or pathologically late. That is my daughter, bless her, I love her to pieces, but I've learned you set the time at least 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on what it is, and then we might be lucky if we get where we're going on time. So there's a real sort of challenge with determining and judging how long tasks might take. So, why is time so tricky with ADHD? Now, as I said, we've got a bit of an issue sometimes when it comes to the estimation of it. And if you think about how that impacts on day-to-day life, getting to appointments, when's the bus coming, how long is it going to take, how long is the journey going to take? See that, Jamie, I'll come back to that in a minute. Running projects, getting assignments over the line for students, trying to estimate how long certain of their assignments will take, or even writing a dissertation, particularly at this time of year. It's really, really challenging for students. So if any of you have got ADHD youngsters, you might see this in some of the homework as well. So it's not just about working out where to start, but how long on earth is that going to take? And things such as remembering the distance, that it's this year, that it's a whole year that's gone round, and it's somebody's birthday again, the special days. All of these things impact on a person's sense of self, and sometimes can really lead to quite poor self-esteem and confidence, because sometimes we really don't understand why this is happening. Okay, so I'm going to come on to this when I'm talking about that perception of time that I've just talked through there. I might be a little bit going backwards and forwards here, because my mouth goes a bit on hyperverbal, so forgive me if that's the case. But we'll pause halfway through, and then you can ask me any questions and bits that I've missed or you want clarification on. The bottom line here is, with ADHD, we see time differently. We perceive time very differently than our neurotypical peers.
No, you're not taking out the nice, you're not taking out the big ones, are you?
Oh.
Took loads off.
Why?
Jamie, can you pop on mute?
No, if
Can
I
you put
can
everyone
have
on
something
mute?
thrown from the window, I will
me?
fire it. It was going to grow tall.
At the end there.
We blow around.
Okay. Done. Okay. Now, when we're looking at that perception of time, it's going to alter pretty much our ability to determine what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it. And when we look at the fact that we have very much a present focus, I don't know if any of you have heard of the term now or not now. Okay, something that, again, the famous Mr. Hallowell will talk about. Okay, people with ADHD, we have a heightened focus on the present moment, which makes it really difficult to plan for future events, to sometimes even to goal set further ahead. The longer term ones, the shorter term ones can just about be achieved. So when I'm working with my clients, I'm not just looking at that longer piece, I'm looking at these shorter pieces. And this actually can also lead to really quite a difficulty in being able to predict the probabilities of things happening, and definitely challenges in scheduling diaries, meeting commitments, that kind of part of the organisation. And I think the other thing that's probably really quite important to say here is that, I'll come on to that one in a minute, is that if we can't see something in the present, it doesn't exist. It's a term that we call object permanence. So it's really, really important when we struggle with time to have multiple visual reminders. Okay, now by that, it could be post-its. You could have a whiteboard. You could have a blackboard. You could have, and I'm almost ashamed to say this, but not that ashamed because I'm saying it publicly here, I still have a file of facts because it's visual, because I see it, because the moment my electronic diary disappears off the screen, I no longer can see it, so therefore I don't know what I'm doing. So having things visual is really, really important. Okay, it's okay to have electronic diaries, but you just need something, may need something more visual, more present, and to keep it within kind of like that immediate scope, particularly if you're working at a desk. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a look at that time blindness that I was talking about earlier on. So when we look at the underestimation of time, okay, that's the first of two core issues within this space. We don't know, we cannot guess, which means very often we're underprepared and we're rushing right up to the last minute. Okay? And the second piece here is the overestimation of time. Now, sometimes that's where we get a sense that we've almost got more time to complete the task than we actually do in reality. And what then happens is that you see procrastination and that kind of poor time allocation and stalling and not really quite knowing again what to do next. So it can be really, really quite confusing. And as I said earlier on, because we have an interest-based nervous system, we are naturally tuned to, we're drawn towards those things that have that immediate gratification. So if you have ADHD, you may find yourself prioritizing activities that will get more instant results. I don't know, even things like mowing a lawn because you'll see it looking nice, painting a wall. You'll tend to avoid those longer term projects which cause more stress. It's what we call a higher cognitive load. Or events and stress, projects and experiences or gatherings, social ones. There's another one here that might be perceived as either less interesting, like boring conversation, get up and walk away, meetings, anything that's going to require more brain energy, anything that will increase the stress loads. We kind of want to go, oh, no, just get me away from that. And that causes problems both personally and professionally for many people. So, and the official term for that is temporal myopia. I just call it immediate gratification. And it's purely because we have an interest-based nervous system. We will gravitate. It's that kind of, oh, shiny, oh, squirrel, oh, that's nice, oh, that's new. So managing that is really, really important. But managing it in a way that helps to keep things as kind of level and as calm as possible, because you can manage things in a very, very chaotic way, or you can manage them, even with ADHD, in a more structured way. And whilst ADHDers will often go, oh, I don't like structure, you do actually need it. It's really important. It's really important to be effective, for us to feel effective and to have a better sense of self in our lives. There's so many messages that come through to ADHD. Why couldn't you do this? Why didn't you predict that? Why are you late? Why are you 3 hours early? You know, what is that? Why can't you just? If only you could. And all of those messages are quite crushing to a person's sense of self. So when we can just do little things to help ourselves and actually understand that there's nothing wrong with us, it's just how we're wired. So, we're not faulty. We're not flawed. Our brains just work a bit differently, and they need a bit different, slightly different scaffolding, I suppose, is probably the easiest way to put it. So we'll have a little bit of a look here. When we kind of consider some easy tools, actually, before we go into this slide, there's me going backwards and forwards. I'm going to pause just for a moment. Are there any burning questions in the chat? Jamie, is there anything in the chat there? Maybe I could have a quick. Oh, can't remember straight properly.
As it stands, there's nothing in the chat. There's no burning questions. Does anybody have any questions as it stands? Everyone following everything? There you go. Okay, so we've got a question from Harry. Oh, don't. Okay.
Oh, no, he was saying yes. Thank you,
well,
Harry.
Please continue.
Thank you. Excuse me. Okay, so looking at improving time management for adults with ADHD, but some of these tools will also really, really help you if you have young people or children with ADHD. So you may need to sort of adapt them a little bit. But obviously young people and children, they really benefit from having some structured routines and some orders, including using planners, digital calendars, breaking tasks down into smaller steps, setting reminders. So when you look at task lists, whether you call it a to-do list, whether it's written, whether you use I use like a big pucker pad to do thing, keeping those visual as well is really important. So whether they're handwritten, whether they're typed, usually if you keep it to the side or on I've seen people with whiteboards on those, I can't remember what you call those concertina things where they come out of the wall and then you can push them back again and they can rub off the whiteboard stuff and put other things on there. Those are quite useful as well. So however you're going to create a task list, keep it simple. Okay, really simple. It's a very effective tool because you can tick off through. There's a good sense of satisfaction that feeds into that immediate gratification piece. Now, for calendars, now you could have these online, you could have them in your diary. For some families, they have shared calendars where they're really visual. Those are super important as well, especially if you've got a neurodivergent family, so that everybody knows. Yeah, everybody knows where they're meant to be and what they're meant to do. But sometimes we forget that there will be other people in our families that may also have similar challenges. So being able to support each other in one space can be very useful. Now, by planning schedules out in advance and setting simple reminders for some important tasks, helps you to keep track of appointments, helps you keep track of your deadlines. I will often use a color-coded scheme because I like color, particularly pink, because that's what I like. With highlighters or all sorts of other things. Some people have like little stars, or so that they'll remember. It's about creating a system that's going to work for you. One size doesn't fit all. It needs to be personalized to you. Okay, so whether you use the little kind of sticky shapes that you get or that you can peel off, or whether you might just kind of write in different colors, it doesn't matter as long as it works for you. All right, but do use them. And if you're using them and you have a family, you're also teaching your family. If you have a younger family, you're teaching them those systems early on that will support them in later life as well, particularly through different stages of education. That's really important because when they become more independent in their learning, they need more of these systems in place. So to have those, being able to see those being modeled by you as an adult is hugely beneficial. So time blocking. Some of you might have heard of the Pomodoro technique, where you kind of schedule small amounts of time for very specific and different tasks. You may choose to work in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Helps you stay focused and prevents distractions. We'll come into some of those other ones a little bit later on. But working in small pockets of time will actually help to it's almost like it can be a laser focus as long as things are broken down into small enough tasks. All right, and there's a whole bunch of tools and things that can help with that. Now, some of those, if you look at apps and sites, a real common one that can be used is Todoist. And that can help you to keep track and of different tasks, break down different tasks. Another one that's really helpful, and this is particularly good for young people and for students, is Goblin Tools, the 2025 version. And that gives them access to, there's a bit of an AI platform in there as well in terms of knowledge base. But it will break their tasks right the way down and allocate time to it as well for them. And even a simple task such as making the bed, for example, that can be broken down into minute by minute steps to actually help people learn the structure. So whether it's for a young person, I don't know, making the bed, or whether it's writing a report for, in my world, it would be writing a clinical report. But if it was for in the workplace, for example, a different type of, perhaps in the corporate, it may be writing a training program on a particular topic. So, bear with me a moment. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. So make use of the actual tools out there. There's another really nice one as well called Finch. And that's actually, Finch is a really lovely one for making sure that you're taking care of your self-care and as well as your productivity. It's not just focused on the task, it's making sure that you're looking after you. So those are just some real common ones. I'm mindful not to overload you with a whole bunch of them, but take away some of these real tried and tested ones and see which ones fit and work for you, is always going to be really quite helpful. So you've got the estimator tab in there. So that's in your Goblin Tools. That's your breaking down the task and guiding it into those kind of like almost minute by minute and your first and your next steps. So you can kind of tick them off as you go along. Okay. Yeah, as I said, I've just seen that comment in the chat that's come in. Yeah, so yeah, it's finding one that's going to work for you. Okay, not all, one size doesn't fit all. Not each of these tools is going to work for everybody. So it's maybe we can look at, when we get questions and answers, what was actually happening there. It may well be that your mind requires a different kind of setup. Maybe it was visual, maybe it was just the way that it was organized, or maybe it was just, maybe there was too much in it. Sometimes we need to simplify it down, or sometimes in other ways there's not enough in some of these. So because everybody's unique, I don't know in this talk which ones are going to be most suitable for you as individuals or your loved ones and those that you care about. So we've got, that's right, one size never fits all. Thank you, Jamie. So when we look at the use of calendars and reminders, like I said earlier on, keep it visual. The shared ones, oh, that's not working there. Okay, that's not quite doing what I thought that it would do. Oh, there we go. So when you use calendars, you get to prioritize the important things. So your brain starts to learn how to begin to prioritize, because you can see that quite visually. It's something that we call neuroplasticity. And our ADHD brains can learn how to put in place new systems. They can learn how to create new habits. It just takes us a little bit longer, and we do need to have that kind of very visual reminders there. Anything that's going to help you to keep in place your appointments, your meetings, your deadlines, planning your day, all sorts of areas around there. So the other thing about creating reminders, if you think about the difference between a reminder, for example, and an alarm. Now, sometimes people have the same tones, but often, if you think about it, if we change the ringtone on our phone, we know about it quite quickly because we'll be like, oh, it'll stand out. So if you had different alarms for your reminders and different tones for your reminders and different tones for your alarms, whether that's even with things like Siri and Alexa, when you're on the move, that can actually really, really help, because an alarm is something which normally requires immediate attention. It's something that you need to technically do now, or very close to now. Whereas a reminder is this needs to be done by da 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 da. So if you combine that with something visual, a whiteboard, calendar, to-do list, that's going to keep you more on track to be able to go tick, yeah, I've done that. So that things tend to run more smoothly, whether that's you've got to complete a piece of assignment work, or remember to buy your auntie's birthday card, or remember that you're meant to be meeting some friends at 2:00 on a Saturday, so that you stop missing things and you start being able to make things easier for you. I don't mean create things, but actually get to things more easily. And that also helps, that kind of social piece. So you get to be a little bit more on track and on task with friends and socials. It may even be remember to call, I don't know, remember to call Toby, for example, at 6:00. Even those tiny things, when they're visual, it's so much easier to help you remember the important events in your life, to keep a focus, okay? And so that you start to meet some of the deadlines in good time, in good order, and it keeps your brain quite fresh as well. So, don't think I've missed anything there. All right, here's some little strategies here. Prioritization, often kind of quite a scary word. It's not scary, it can be a little daunting at times, because for many people, I've experienced this, and I hear this pretty much on a daily basis by many, many, many of my clients. I certainly from all of my children. I don't really quite know where to start. I don't know how to know what needs to come first and what needs to come second or third. And the bigger the task, the harder that can be, because it almost seems like there's so many different steps in there. And by the time you've kind of focused on the top one, maybe on the bottom one, if you're lucky, trying to remember the ones in between can be incredibly stressful, and it increases that kind of what we call the cognitive load that I said earlier on in the brain. So what many people can do, again, here you've got the little stickies in the picture, but you could take a highlighter, and most people will know what things are important. They just may not know what order they need to go in. Okay, so either work with another person, sort of buddy with somebody, and have that kind of accountability piece there, and see if they, for some people we do kind of know, but if you need some extra help and somebody say, okay, well, is this more important than that for you? Is this more important than that piece? That will help you to work out what comes first, what comes next. And once you've started on that, once the wheels are in motion, it's a lot easier to keep the train running. It's that getting started. Remember right at the beginning I said about task initiation, and it's that if we don't know where to begin, because we don't know what's the most important step, what's the first step, how do we get anything moving? Okay, so using this, it's a really key element and a strategy for effectively managing your time. Work with somebody. If you struggle identifying it, break it down into those tiny steps. Say, well, is this more important than that? Is this more important than that? Okay, so as you start to get your yes it is, yes it is, yes it is, you're going to start to kind of narrow that down and work out where you've got to begin. Now, if you're doing that manually all in your head, that can take a bit of time. Earlier on, I mentioned some of those apps. Okay, make use of them. They'll do the grunt work for you. You know, if you pop in there what it is that you want to achieve, it will break it down. And then that's going to make it a lot easier. All you've then got to do is just, okay, all I've got to do is just this step first. That'll take me 5 minutes. Okay, so there's my 300 seconds. I'm just going to start with that. Tick it off. So you start to get better results. You start to feel better about yourself because you're maximizing your productivity. There's a real sense of achievement as you work through those things. So, if you look at time blocking that I mentioned very briefly earlier on, you might choose to work in 5 minutes or 25 minutes. The natural space for the human mind to focus on intensely before focus wanes is 20 minutes. And then it starts to become really quite stressful in the brain. It consumes a lot of energy. Now, for ADHD, when we have so much more to consider in that space of time, sometimes 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm talking if you've got a task that may be a little dull, boring, and it's not as exciting as something else that you'd much rather be doing. It's about really blocking that time out, making it short, and thinking, is there a reward in mind that you can give yourself, so that once it's done, you could go off and do something that might regulate the mind a little bit more, give you a little bit of breathing space. I don't know, for some people, they like to have a snack or have a drink, grab some water before you go on to the next piece. For others, if it's a slightly bigger task, then it might take a little bit longer. So make sure that you do build a reward in at the end. So it's something that you can move towards. It's something that makes you feel good. And that in turn is going to help the brain to focus a little bit better for that time frame. For students, it's often sort of 20, 25 minutes max, but 20 minutes, I would say, and then have a good 5 or 10 minutes break. Because whilst sometimes people will say, well, that's a lot of time wasted, the break that it gives the brain, which is kind of like a muscle, means that when it gets to refocus again, it's refreshed. It can absorb more information, which means it's actually sharpening and supporting the whole of the executive function, including the working memory, the short-term memory, and the longer-term memory. So it's really important to have those little breaks and to do something nice for yourself in them. Rather than, well, I've finished this task, so now I'm going to do that dull one. Now, we often don't have too much bother in focusing on things that we particularly enjoy, usually for huge lengths of time. And that can be quite a joy because it can be quite a nice calm space, even when it's, a very busy thing that we may be doing. You still feel good doing it. So what we're talking about here are for those more challenging areas of life, things that maybe we may perceive as being less enjoyable and a bit more tedious. Okay. Now, the other area is goal setting. I did allude to this earlier on. If the goals are too far in the future, okay, it's not going to get done because guess what, folks? It's not now. The amount of conversations I had with my kids about this, and by the time we kind of all sorted everything through, life became an awful lot easier. I started to sort of like teach them those strategies as you go along, because they become a naturally part of their lived experience then, and it becomes part of what they learn, what they expect. So when you're talking about goal setting, if you're working with young people, and if you've got young people, that goal, particularly with ADHD, needs to be pretty immediate, as in within the next couple of hours, next hour maybe, depending upon the age or the emotional awareness of the child. As people get a little bit older, we can stretch that time frame out a little bit more, but working out what is the capacity of that person. It may well be that saying, well, we can do this next week, and that person going, well, and that's not motivating me to do this right now. Nah, sorry, not going to bother it. No, still boring, still a boring task. But if you said, well, actually, how about at 4 o'clock or 3:30 today, we're going to go off together and do X, Y, Z, because I know you really like that. All of a sudden, it's, okay, well, then how are we going to do that? Then you start breaking it down. Then you start kind of getting the prioritization of the important pieces and where they go in their schedule and what they need to do. So you're getting closer. It's still a goal, but actually you've brought it right into that immediate space. So you make it more doable for a person. You make it more doable for yourself. My golden rule is, the more boring a task is, the more dull it is. And there are stuff, that has to be done that's pretty dull. Some household chores I actually find quite relaxing because you don't have to think. But some of them, dull as dishwater. Dull as dishwater. So you kind of make those time frames smaller so it's more manageable, it's easier, and there's a little reward at the end of it. So small, achievable tasks help you to manage that time much, much more effectively and gives you the best chances of ticking those things off so that you achieve more. You feel as if you've succeeded. And that then starts to feed a better sense of self. And as we know with ADHD, there are many thousands of messages that we either give ourselves or may receive from the world around us that tells us all about the things that we're not good at, the things that we struggle with, all about the things that make us feel really rubbish about ourselves if we decided to believe them. So we don't have to, but what is important is to develop the systems that work for us. Okay? And again, one size doesn't fit all. It's kind of, remember what I said at the beginning in terms of kind of assess it and then adapt it and then do again now, or as close to now as you can make it. Okay? Doesn't mean that you can't have those longer term goals. But you've got to see where these smaller ones fit in. Are they aligning with that longer term section, that longer term vision? Okay? Because ADHDers will struggle with that very often. We struggle with that longer term piece. Got great ideas, but can you now begin? I wonder if some of you can begin to see and recognize where this challenge with prioritization, planning, organization, not knowing where to start, but actually knowing it needs to be done, but it just doesn't get off the ground. Why that becomes so challenging. Because we do not do time the same way. Which is why very often when you're working in a CBT capacity, and cognitive behavioral therapy, for those of you that may not be aware of it, and you're working with something that is more aligned for a neurotypical mindset, many of those elements aren't geared for now. They aren't geared for that type of adaptability that we need and the creativity, because with an ADHD brain that works, it's like mercury and can be super fast. It can adapt very quickly, but needs support and scaffolding and encouragement and a bit of championing at the same time would be lovely. And many of the ways that a neurotypical mind would work, it doesn't, those methods don't always work as well in the ADHD hemisphere, because they're often working more over here, can't see the other side of my hand, rather than closer to now. Closer you are to now, the easier it will be. Okay. Now the other thing I put on here is accountability systems. So this is really, really important. And I don't know what people know about accountability systems, but effectively it's a little bit like having somebody that you can check in with, somebody that you can say, hey, I need to get this done. Either you've had some help breaking it down and they've helped you, or whether or not you've done that bit yourself, but you still need somebody to go, hey, I'm just going to tell you that I'm doing this. I aim to have that done by here, and I'd like to check in with you when it's done. Now, you'd be surprised how effective that can be. Okay, because when they do that check-in and go, yeah, I've done it. And I've got many of the student clients that I work with, we have that kind of check-in process. And a wonderful student at the moment in training to be a pharmacist. And this is a daily occurrence for us. And actually at the moment, because of the significance of the exams and where this person is in their training, it's a check-in 3 or 4 times a day. This is all contract, it's agreed, but it's really important. Now, if you've got children, they can check in as well. You can check in and make it fun. You can give them a reward with that. Each time you're boosting them because they've done it. It's like, yes, that's great. That's amazing. What do you want to choose next? What's the next bit that's closest to now? Do you want to, or should we leave it till tomorrow? Okay, would you want to do that tomorrow by 8:30, or do you want to do it by 10:30? So you're given a choice. You're giving some options. It's not it's not an automatic, it's absolutely going to get done that way. But you're actually stacking the odds in your favour and in their favour. Okay? It's about boosting that sense of, yeah, actually I can do this. And when we know that we're going to be we've shared that with somebody, there's something really interesting about verbally committing that to somebody else. It's not just a thought. The thoughts are a bit like a get out of jail free card on the Monopoly board. Okay, when you say that when you actually give a commitment, you say, I'm going to do this, you are giving that commitment. And with ADHD, there's often a very strong sense of delivering on what you say when you say you're going to do it. So you make it easy, because that's the just thing to do, that's the right thing to do, that's the fair thing to do. So it's making it easy for oneself. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, ask me some questions. Okay, so breaking things down, just talked a little bit more about that. Okay, take out the overwhelm, use the tools, reduce the stress. Okay. Estimate the time frames. Now, building up a bit of it's almost like a bit of a template of how long things take can be quite a useful thing as well. And whether you kind of keep that on a phone or on a computer, or I don't know, if it's something that's a routine task that needs to be done every day, maybe that goes on a whiteboard or something more visible. But so you've got a stamp of it. And I will often use things like a time timer. So when you're breaking it into small steps, you get a sense of how long things are going to take. So if you're in any doubt, you can refer back to something that you've done before that's the same or similar. And then you go, oh, right, okay, so this will probably take me about 5 minutes. I was thinking it's going to take me an hour, or I was thinking it was going to take me 30 seconds. And then we're all late for dinner. However it goes. So if you think about that piece as you're breaking things down, it almost sounds like I'm repeating myself, but some of these tools are so simple. It's getting them in the right way and in the right space for you. They all link together. Okay, when you break stuff down into tinier chunks, if they still seem too big, break them down again. Okay, break it down until it's kind of literally a minute by minute task list that you've got. You don't have to do them all at once. You can just pick them off bit by bit by bit. Okay, that's going to help you to get bit by bit by bit closer to whatever that task achieved, which is a goal, was. Goals don't have to be these massive things. It can be set the dinner table. It can be remember my dad's birthday on Saturday. Remember to call. It can be tiny things, or it could be remember I've got to write that report. Remember I've got a meeting with my boss. Yeah. Anything that will help you to organize these things, stay focused. And also, the smaller the time frame, the easier it is to be motivated. Remember, an interest-based nervous system, if something is boring, it's a lot harder for us to maintain that focus. So take it in tinier amounts. As I said earlier on, by doing this, breaking it down. And if you set deadlines, this is where accountability does come in really, really helpful. Okay. That's the piece that's going to help to prevent procrastination. Procrastination typically comes when something is just too big and we don't know where to start and it's boring, or maybe it's exciting. But normally if it's exciting and it's new, we're quite raring to go with it, but still may not know quite where to start. So we might need some help with that. But if it's dull, you're going to need to kind of break that down into the tinier pieces. All right. Mainly so it helps you to get it done on time. Then you can move on to something that's more enjoyable. Okay. Eliminating distractions. So turn off your notifications on your phone or on your computer. If you've got like a Mac, which has this lovely habit of sending things through when you really don't want to see it, like it happened here a second ago. So I've just turned them off. So stay focused. It'll help you to hold your focus longer when you're not looking continually at what's coming in. Okay. If you're working on a computer and you don't need your phone for anything else, put it in another room. Put it in a drawer. Turn it face down and put it on silent. Okay. Give it to somebody else. I've had students that will give their phones to a parent and go, hold on to that. They don't like doing it, but they will do it if it means it's going to get them closer to passing and not having to resit things. Okay. Close unnecessary tabs. I don't know about anybody else here, but I will frequently have anywhere in excess of 30 or 40 tabs open so I can remember what I'm doing, if not more. So when I'm doing a very, very important piece of work that requires judgment, that requires consideration, I have to close them all down. But I often have to make a little bit of a note as to the ones that are really important that I need to reopen again, because I've often forgotten where they were by the end of that. So that's my that's my plan A and plan B there. Okay. So again, all of these elements will help you to stay focused. Work in a quiet place. Even if you have a little bit of music on, because that's kind of your jam, that's what you like doing, that's absolutely fine. But I tend to work in quiet. It's really important. It helps the brain to focus more, and it stops that squirrel, silver fox moment. Oh, what's that? Oh, pin just dropped. All those elements going on. Okay. So it just helps you to harness that a little bit more. Obviously, if you've got TV and things on, and all of a sudden there's big loud noises on it, that's likely to take even if you're not looking at it, it's taking your attention away. All right. So usually those types of distractions, radio, TV sounds, kids' iPads, that kind of stuff, all of that stuff in the background wreaks havoc with our ability to be focused. All right. So anything that is unnecessary, get rid of it as much as you can. Okay. Make things as easy as possible for you to stay focused. Why would we make life harder for ourselves if we don't need to? And there's an option that we're actually in control of. And that is one thing that we're in control of. There's many, many things that goes on in our brains that we're not in control of fully. But that one, we are in control of that kind of choice. The other one is clear your desk, clear your workspace. Get it as uncluttered as possible. Okay? The more clutter there is, the more distracting it becomes. The more we start moving stuff around and flicking through stuff. Get rid of it. Put it in a cupboard somewhere, particularly if you've got something that requires a lot of focus. Get rid, because you don't need it for that particular task. You can always pull the other stuff out again later. Only have available what you know that you need. Okay. I'd probably say on there, use your silencers. I've said about the phone, putting it in a different room. Another thing, and this is something that I actually use quite a lot. This is body doubling. And I've got a couple of really, really cool people that are amazing and understand that life is not actually always easy, even when you are, well on the wrong side of 55, which is not great. And it causes an issue because sometimes the brain, and forgive me for if I speak out of turn here, but sometimes also when menopause has kicked in a little bit later on down the line, it absolutely affects your ability to hold that focus for a longer period of time. Things get a bit fuzzy. So when I have body doubling, what this is you have somebody else that is present either at the end of a screen or they're with you. I'm very, very lucky as I have people that I can work with quite closely in that respect. And they're physically present or they're at the end of a screen. They're busy getting on with those things. But again, it's like the accountability. I said, right, I'm doing this. And they'll be like, right, okay, you go on and do this. Check in with me when it's done. But because they're there, I'm like, oh, the moment it's like distraction. They don't know they're still there. Oh, no, okay, right, they're watching. I'm going to crack on. There's an app that's called Dubby that can be quite useful as well. But most of us have got people that we do know well, that we trust, that are not judgmental, and that when they understand why this is so important and how they can really help us, immensely help us, they're very happy to do so. So before we go on there, just very quickly, I'll keep an eye on the chat. Is there any questions? Anything? I'm just opening the chat up now. We've only got another 4 little things to go. I'll count to 5. So you can type the fastest. Lightning speed fingers. Whoa! Off we go. You can probably tell I've got a bit of a zany sense of humour. even though my mouth flaps very quickly at times. Okay. Oh. Yes, yeah, please do, Sue. Can you take yourself off of mute, or do I need to? I don't actually know how to fly this ship. Let me see if I can do it. Sue, I can't unmute you, so if you... Oh, okay. Are you able to... Jamie, if you're there, can you unmute Sue for me? Oh. I have just done something very, very strange here.
So is that SB, yeah?
SB, yeah. I can't do it this end.
There should be a microphone at the top right hand of your screen.
Oh yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sue.
Sorry, I was just clicking on the picture of it and it wasn't doing anything, but that's because I was clicking in the wrong place. Sorry.
That's okay.
I was just wanting to say about, like, before I would set myself a task to do, like that I didn't want to do, like housework, and then I'd say, once I've done that, I can go on and do something I like.
Yeah.
Like artwork or something. But I found that I never started the other tasks, so I never got to do what I enjoyed doing, because I was always saying, right, well, you can't do something you want to do because you haven't done what you need to get done first. But I haven't broken it down. So if I try and break it down, it might work. Yeah.
Excellent. Absolutely. See if you can maybe either break it down in your mind's eye, or use one of the tools to break it down into much, much smaller areas. And that, I think that might hopefully that will get you a bit closer.
Yeah.
To be able to deal with the kind of the chorey kind of tasks, but actually still to really enjoy the stuff that you like to do as well. It's really important that you have that reward, that there's a balance in life.
Yeah, I was, I'd even taken that to therapy, saying, like, I can't do something I want to do unless I've done the other thing, because that's in my mind. That's what I've told myself. So yeah. I couldn't possibly do the other thing, but, yeah. And then I would get to the end of the day and I'd feel so sad because I hadn't achieved anything. So
this might be a way forward for you to kind of work with this, and you'll have my details at the end. You can kind of check in with me by email or whatever, and just let me know how you get on with it. That would be great. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Pleasure. Oh, hang on. I'm just getting my presentation back because it all disappears when that happens. Okay, so let's have a look. Have I missed anything? Jamie, is there anything else in the chat? No? Okay, lovely. Rightio, so where were we? Here we go. All right, so let's have a look at routines. Oh, okay. Catherine, yeah, hang on, let me bring the chat back up very quickly. But okay. Lots of different hats and tend to jump between them. That works fine some of the time, but occasionally a few things get busy and stressful at the same time. That's when I really struggle with prioritizing, and I can get paralyzed with indecision and start making silly mistakes. Any tips? Okay, so dependent upon the nature of the tasks, depending upon how enjoyable they are, how you perceive them. If you've got a lot of things running all at the same time, almost kind of whether it's projects or they're kind of basically butting up against each other, I would, if you're struggling with prioritizing, sometimes having an additional pair of eyes on that and saying to somebody, can you support me? I just need you to work through with me which piece is more important here. Is it this? Is it that? Is it that? Or is that? So you start to kind of structure it. So sometimes having another set of eyes can be really, really beneficial. I've had some people say to me, well, I actually feel really embarrassed asking somebody, but if we don't ask, we don't get. And there is really little point in trying to bury your head and do more of what isn't working for you when you can reach out and say to somebody, I really need a bit of help with this. Would it be okay if I could just ask you to do this for me? I'm not asking you to do the job. I'm just asking you to help me work out where I need to begin and what comes next and what comes next. Okay. Hope that helps, Catherine.
It does, thank you. I think I do actually sometimes ask my boyfriend. He has nothing to do with any of the things I do, but occasionally I do exactly that, and it does help. I think just sometimes to talk about it, because when you're sort of stuck bouncing between things in your own brain, you just can't get out of that loop. So
Absolutely.
I definitely agree that does help.
I mean, to be fair, Catherine, I don't even know how you manage all your email addresses, to be honest.
Nor do I. I don't.
You do so much. You do so much. I really don't know how you manage it.
Super speedy hands when you're trying to manage all of that.
Well,
Thank you,
this is where
Catherine.
the mistakes come in when you're trying to do things quickly. It's like, I'll get this done, get it out of the way, and then you do things quickly and poorly. So I think, taking a bit of time out to breathe, think, okay, what do you need to do, and is important as well.
It's all in the planning. It's all in the planning there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, so great questions there. Thank you, everybody. So here we are where are we? Establishing routine. So this might sound really dull. As I mentioned earlier on, many of us, we don't really like that kind of structure and routine, but it is absolutely essential. And I don't know if any of you have come across habit trackers. There's masses of them. If you go on to Google Images, you can find loads of different examples. I've just kind of put a basic one on here as an illustration, really. But there's masses of them out there. And there's companies that you can buy them off of, etc. Or you could just make your own one. And you could do it by week, or you could do it monthly. Monthly is quite useful to get that kind of overall spread. They're not there as, to see how well you do it. It's just about helping you to keep on track, really. And it's very visual. So you're almost circumventing that issue of object permanence, because the thing with habits are very often they're not things that we write or that we necessarily see. They are sort of doing things. So if you can break down a day or a week at a time, or a month in this respect, on this example here, even if it's a day, morning, afternoon, evening, taking your medication, going for a walk, doing some mindfulness, chatting with a good friend, a little bit of exercise, walking the dog, having something to eat for those that are medicated and that struggle with eating. Now that's an interesting one. Remembering to eat, remembering to drink, sometimes remembering to use the bathroom when you get really, really focused in something. Again, I'm not always very PC, so forgive me if I've spoken out of turn. But these are things that happen. And so anything that we can do to put the habits in place to make sure that we are looking after ourselves. And then we start to form a picture. You can start to see where things are going really well. And if there's areas where you're not able to do something, you might start to see that there's a pattern emerging and think, what could I do to plug that gap? Do I need, at that particular time, what's going on for me at that time? Is it a hormonal thing? Is it is there family clubs going on? Is it, I'm tired? Is it that there's a really heavy point in the week naturally for me work-wise? What is it that's causing that issue at that time? And then you can start to put in place a different structure to help you. It could be as simple as talking to a friend about it. It could be as simple as having some accountability there. It could be as simple as body doubling. It could be you might need an extra tool. So these are very, very useful. Like I say, they're not necessarily liked, but they are utterly essential for time management. At the end of the day, as human beings, we're creatures of habit. I'm pretty certain that most of us in here, I can't say all because there's no guarantees there, but all of us, when we brush our teeth, morning and evening, maybe not for everybody, but you're probably picking up your toothbrush in probably your dominant hand, and you're probably going to put it in the same side of your mouth and either top or bottom the same time each time. Okay, And you don't even think about it because it's a habit. It's something you've been doing since you were little. Okay. Habits build over time and they're reinforced. That kind of repetitive, repeat. And practice makes, I'm going to say it before it goes in the box.
Yeah.
Permanent. Say again,
No,
Jamie. Permanent.
I thought it was perfect. No, practice makes permanent. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I'm
There
not a
you
big
go.
subscriber of perfection. I think it's
Well,
really overrated.
yeah, well, yeah, fair enough.
Imperfection is
I get
much
that,
more
I get that
entertaining.
just as well, to be fair. Yeah, just as well.
A little bit of imperfection goes a long way in this world. Okay, so have a search around for those. They're really, really useful. Okay, so if we have a look here, this has all come up in one go. Cool. Right, prioritizing your tasks. I've talked about that already till the cows come home. Focus on the important ones, get some help to actually bring that into a line. Ask a friend, ask a partner, use accountability systems. You can also work with an ADHD coach to actually help you create a system that's going to work for you. Because the beauty of coaching is that it is absolutely tailored, slightly different from the therapeutic stance, unless you work with somebody, I suppose in that respect, in a similar way where you're qualified in the therapeutic sense and you're qualified as a coach in the same way that I am. I'm not saying you must work with me. I'm not saying it's not a plug. But what it is saying is find somebody that you can connect with and you can work with that understands ADHD from the inside out, preferably with lived experience of it, because they will help you to access your own creativity and put something in place which is scoped to suit your life. Not a textbook, not off a shelf, but it's something which it supports you to develop the tools that you need that are sustainable so you can keep on using them. Rather than, oh, well, that doesn't work, so, I've failed, haven't I? Yeah, that was rubbish, wasn't it? Nah. Coach is like a champion. They're a support. And they're not there to be there indefinitely. They're there to help boost you and help you to understand and know and learn that you can do this yourself. Okay, but we don't know what we don't know. So they'll kind of guide and support that process. So create a schedule, okay, like I've taught. Get a schedule in, get your habit trackers in. Use, I like my manual file of facts diary. I'm a bit of a dinosaur like that. I'm not ashamed to say it. Jazz hands and all that. But also have your electronic ones. You know, we live in an electronic age. Not that I really understand it, but we do. We live in the age of technology. So whatever is going to work for you, whatever is going to help you to manage your time, your tasks. Okay, this is really important to avoid the distractions, work in smaller amounts. Okay, avoiding procrastination. Things I've taught you about today help you to avoid the procrastination, that paralysis that comes from overwhelm. Too high a cognitive load is too overwhelming. Just breaking things down, having support people in place. Starting things a little bit earlier by learning roughly how long things may take or are likely to take. Having a visual of that somewhere. Having a file of that somewhere. Oh, you know, making a pizza, well, that's going to take me half an hour. Brushing my teeth, that's going to take me 2 minutes. Making the bed, well, that's 4 minutes. Tidying my room, okay, anywhere between 5 minutes and 4 hours. So you might want to break that one down into smaller pieces to work out those components, dependent upon how big a floor drobe you have or where you keep your stuff. Yeah. So that's always a good task for a Saturday morning. None of us are perfect. It doesn't exist. So this is about avoiding procrastination. And by doing that, you start to I'll come back to that in a minute, David. That's funny. David's saying on here, how else will I know that I've cleaned all my teeth? Love it. So when we avoid procrastination, okay, by putting these things in place, we're actually supporting ourselves to feel better about ourselves. We're actually increasing our self-esteem, and that can take one heck of a bashing at times. Okay, so use some of these tools. I mentioned earlier on about 5 minutes and 300 seconds. I don't know if any of you have ever come across Mel Robbins' stuff, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. There's some real interesting science behind that. If any of you, so I can see some of you nodding here. Real interesting science here. I am pretty certain that 7 hours of listening could have been condensed into about 1.5. However, there's some amazing information in there. And that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go really does. If you're working in those small pieces of time and you've broken those tasks right the way down and you go, right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm doing this now. I'm going to check in after I've done it. Oh, it's amazing what difference it can make. Now, 10 minutes might sound a long time. What sounds longer? 600 seconds? Or 10 minutes. You can kid yourself, say, well, I'm only doing this for 600 seconds. I'm going to give it my all for 600 seconds. And then I'll decide if I want to reset another 600 seconds. But once the train's in motion, it's easy to keep it going. Jamie, I just saw that this said that it had a restriction on the time. Is this likely to stop in 4 minutes' time? You know?
It's not said that for me.
Okay, I just flashed up in front of me here. Will this keep going or will it just cut everybody off?
Should keep going, to be perfectly honest with you.
That's cool. We'll see what
I'm
happens.
sure it will keep going. It's only Zoom that cuts people off. I'm sure it's just telling you. I think the official ending time is coming.
Yeah, well, I only.
Yeah.
I only put it to I only put it to a set amount of time, but obviously we were late on starting.
A bit late starting, weren't we? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So the other thing to consider using is a time tracker. I don't know if anybody of you have got the time tracker app. It's kind of like white and red. I don't even know if I can show it to you. I can probably find it on here. If you can see it. But this thing is an absolute little diamond. Okay. It looks like, I don't know if you can't. Can you see that kind of little thing here? Looks like that. If you go in your apps, it's a free app. Okay. I don't know if you can see that, but it's an analog. It's in an analog framework, and you've also, I know it's a bit blurry in the background, you've got a digital clock on there. You can set it for 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And what happens, just bring that back up. For those of you who can just roughly see it through here, if I move the marker, I can set it anywhere that I want on here, and it will count down, and that will get smaller and smaller. So as I keep that to my side, can you just see that there? So some invisible nods, I'll assume that you can. This little gem is absolutely invaluable, okay? Because you can keep it up, and it doesn't, if your phone is by you, it doesn't go off and it doesn't allow other things to come in either.
Sorry, so what do you call that? Time tracker?
Called a time tracker, yeah. Time
tracker. I'll put a link to it in the chat.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Time tracker app, that's it, Harry, yeah. It's brilliant. Absolutely, it's super simple, really easy to use, even for a complete technophobe. Okay, it's amazing. Okay, you think about roughly how long you think you've got, or that you want the task to take. It's also a really good way of working out how long things really do take. All right, so it's a really cool way of rewiring your brain. I mentioned neuroplasticity earlier on, but it helps your brain to get better at estimating time because you've got the analog visual there. It eliminates the other distractions. You've got the digital if you want it. So depending on how you get on with those kind of things, I love it. I think it's great. I use it for meetings. I use it for helping me as like a task starter along with my 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because I normally have to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, press my time timer. And that's it. And by that point, I'll then go afterwards, normally to my husband or the other people I work with. I've done this now. What's next? What have I got next? Okay, so it's like it's not blistering efficiency at this end. I wouldn't go that far, but it certainly helps and stops that kind of procrastination occurring. Okay, so that's a really neat one. The other one here, prioritizing things such as, has anybody used the Eisenhower matrix when we talk about prioritization? I don't know if any of you know about this. Again, if you put Eisenhower matrix, I've spelt it on the bottom here, put it into Google Images and you'll find loads and loads of different kinds of variations of this. But effectively, when we were talking earlier on about working out what's important. This is sort of split down into quadrants. It actually came from Stephen Covey's work of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he's got various different other ones from that. But you can then look at, well, what's important and urgent. You've got to do those first. Do those first. You should really never have any more than 2 of those in a 24-hour period. Okay. If you find that you've done this for half a day, for example, you decide to prioritize on half a day and you've got 5 items in here, it's too much. Okay. So you've got to break that down further. So this next quadrant here is what's important, but it's not so urgent. Schedule it. Break it down, maybe for later in the day, maybe for a different day. All right. What's urgent but less important? See if other people can do it. Anybody that can help you with it. If you don't need to do it, see if somebody else that does enjoy doing it will do it, or at least do it with you. And when it's neither urgent or important, don't do it at all.
Exactly.
Okay. Does it really need to be done? Is it really that important? Because if it's in that bucket, it's not that important. It may well be over time that it snakes up and becomes more important, but this will help. This is an easy way in sort of quadrants, if you're quite a visual person, to break things down. Okay. And then we have here, last but not least, okay, it's not the last slide, I fibbed, sorry. We've got taking care of yourself, self-care and ADHD. Okay, you've got to take care of your mind and your thoughts. Okay, many of these tips and tools and these time hacks, they really help you to care for your brain. They help you to be kind to yourself by breaking things down. And the kinder we are to ourselves, we don't need to be mean to ourselves. You know, it's often been quite a lot of those messages through growing up. Don't need them. Okay, so the least we can kind of move those out of the equation. And support, if we have got other family members with ADHD and we've got kids and we can kind of teach them some of these things, it really supports them later in life to learn how to take care of themselves as well. That kind of agency. To take care of your physical health, increase your own well-being through these self-cares, take care of your spiritual health for those of you that are spiritual. Okay.
Absolutely.
It's so, so important. Okay, because it takes time to do this. So it will still require some of these tools. Okay, it's not just a happy clappy, oh, that'd be nice, bit of self-care. These are real things that we need to support ourselves mentally, emotionally, and physically. Okay, so it'll help you to manage your symptoms, help you to reduce your stress, help you to enhance your mood, increase those dopamine levels, norepinephrine, enhance the focus and the energy levels. If your dopamine and your norepinephrine are higher, and you're enhancing that focus and energy levels, your serotonin levels are higher. So all 3 of those core neurotransmitters work at a better level, okay, with or without medication, okay? It's not a cure-all, but it will really help to prevent burnout, okay? ADHD burnout is as hideous as autistic burnout, okay? Oh, and it creeps up. It's got a real creep and peep mentality. Before you know it, it's there upon you. So all of these things can really help. So with self-care, regular exercise, healthy diet, sufficient sleep, okay? I'm not a consultant in any of those areas, all right? Know roughly what to do, but I'm not going to spend too much time there, all right? Mindfulness practice. Well, I am an instructor in that area, but again, that's not what this talk is about, okay? Hobbies, fun, relaxation, always a good one, all right? The more of those you can do, the better, because you'll regulate for longer, all right? So, very, very finally, seek some support if you feel that it could help you. If you feel that there's somebody that can tailor things with you, okay, consider working with a life coach or with a therapist that is also skilled in the coaching side of things. Sometimes can be very, very useful and helpful, okay? And they'll help you do these things. Stay organized, eliminate distractions, establish your routines, identify and achieve your goals. And something really which I would like to put at the bottom there is here, but I put it on the side. When you work with somebody that understands how to help you get the best out of you and out of your ADHD life, to develop that agency, the sustainable tools and mechanisms, put those systems in place, okay? It makes such a difference. such a difference, so that you get to take control of your time, your life, the way that it suits and works you, and to feel good about it as well. So if you want to get in touch with anything, give me any feedback about today, there's my email address. So my other email address, which I didn't actually put on here, is vanessa@changesforlife with the number 4.co.uk.